Hello, everybody. Welcome to the JD Theory. Today, as you can see, we are doing the WWE Attitude Era bracket. Now, I've been looking to get this done for a long time now. I have a ton of notes for every superstar that appears. I have them all scattered out in front of me in alphabetical order so that when I shuffle the seating, I could give you all the information you need on any superstar in this bracket. We're going to be choosing who I prefer, and that's really the only criteria. I mean, of course, title history, accomplishments, these things are going to play into what I like about a superstar, but this is purely my opinion. Anything else beyond that, up for discussion in the comments below. Let me know what you think. I'd be more than happy to hear who you have winning this bracket. Or just, did I miss anybody in the bracket? Is there anybody worth consideration? Should I look into somebody's career more deeply that may have gotten eliminated early? All that stuff, put it in the comment sections. But right now, what we're going to do, we are going to X out this ad on the top. And then we are going to use, first, we're going to shuffle the seating. So it's completely random. We can't look at anything. Shuffle seating. Use matchup mode. Boom, here we go. The WWE Attitude Bracket. First we got Sable versus The Big Show. Now Sable, she was the women's champ one time. She defeated Jacqueline for that accomplishment. Notable rivalries, Mark Mero, Jacqueline, Deborah, Tori Wilson, and she was part of the corporation side with her 1999 heel turn. As for The Big Show, he is a one-time WWE champion. He defeated The Rock, Triple H, in a triple threat match. He's a two-time hardcore champion, defeating Crash Holly and Rhino, and a two-time tag team champion both times with Undertaker, defeating Kane and X-Pac, and the second time around they defeated the Rock and Roll Express. Feuds being the Rock and Roll Express, whoa, the Rock and Sock Connection, excuse me. Notable feuds from The Big Show would be Steve Austin, The Rock, Kane, Undertaker, Triple H, and Shane O'Mac, baby. He was the monster of the main event during this era. Now, between Big Show and Sable, I think I'm going to have to go with the Show, baby. I love Big Show. He's my brother's favorite wrestler growing up, so I always saw Big Show matches. Gotta love the Big Show's theme song, but we are talking about the 90s incarnation of the Big Show, and Sable for that matter. I'm only listing accomplishments that occurred in the Attitude Era. From the end of 1997, that back half of that year, all the way up till that middle piece of 2002. I just went for the most widely known Attitude Era time spans. I believe it starts, I know it ends with John Cena's debut into the Ruthless Aggression Era, cutting that promo on Kurt Angle. And I think it starts a little before the Montreal Screwjob is where we say it starts. But yeah, either way, man, I'm going to go with the Big Show on this one. Thank you, Sable, for your participation, but you are not getting past the first round, it seems. Now, interesting. We have our boy Christian versus Dr. Death, Steve Williams. Now, let me talk about Steve Williams a little bit first. He had no titles during this era. He came in as a veteran wrestler to elevate talent. That's what he was here for. Notable feuds being Kurt Angle, Ken Shamrock, and D'Lo Brown. Known for his no-nonsense style. Very intense and stiff striking. Also, one of the coolest nicknames ever. I mean, Dr. Death. Come on, give it to the man. Then we have Christian, who was still on the way up in this era, but very accomplished. He's a one-time light heavyweight champion, defeating Taka Michinoku. He's a 5-time tag team champion, exclusively with Edge, and that is just during this era. Yes, Christian had more tag team runs, I believe 7 in total, but during the Attitude Era is the only time span we're considering on this list. One-time Intercontinental Champion, defeating Edge, and a one-time European Champion, defeating Diamond Dallas Page. He is also known for being in the Brood, of course his association with Edge and Gangrel, which later would just be him and Edge. Biggest feuds of the era, of course, would be the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, Edge, the APA, and Kurt Angle. Now, as much as I think Dr. Death is cool, and I remember playing as him in one of those N64 games, it was before they got good. I remember WrestleMania 2000 was like the best one, and the ones kind of before that, they were all right. And before they even found that formula, they kind of sucked. I remember Steve Williams was in one of those games. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with his work. I've only seen clips of him. You know, I pretty much only knew to include him in this list because of that video game from way back. So, yeah, he had a very, very short run in the Attitude Era. Nothing notable. It's going to be Christian, of course. Shout out to the Christian. Jeff Jarrett. Oh, baby. Jeff Jarrett versus Val Venis. Let's take a look. Because Jeff Jarrett was surprisingly stacked in the Attitude Era. If we're talking purely his run sheet. Because he is a 4-time Intercontinental Champion, defeating D'Lo Brown, Owen Hart, Edge, and Chyna. One-time tag team champion with Owen Hart, defeating Ken Shamrock and the Big Boss Man, and he is the one-time European champion, defeating D'Lo Brown once again. Country singer persona Double J to heel turn, don't piss me off character. Now, Jeff Jarrett, I think nowadays he's very well known for his journeyman-like career. Of course, he would be in, I believe he was in WCW. He was pretty much one of the founding pieces of TNA. He pretty much put his heart and soul into that company, and I think he have a lot to do with AEW's development as well, or GLW, something like that. I mean, this guy is very savvy, passionate about the wrestling business. But yeah, back in the 90s when he was just Double J, a very strong mid-card contender. And another mid-card contender, this one a bit of a comedy act, we have Val Venis, who is a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, defeating Ken Shamrock and Rikishi. One-time European Champion, defeating the British Bulldog. One-time Tag Champion with Bull Buchanan, defeating the Hardy Boys. Now, he's iconic for his time in Right to Censor, especially since his character beforehand was so absurd. Especially his feud with Kaientai. Is that how you pronounce his name? Kaientai. And then, the infamous Chop Chop. Whew. What a time. What a time. Not like I was there for it. I saw it all retrospectively. He also feuded with Gold Dust, Ken Shamrock, Rikishi, Godfather, and the Hardy Boys. Yeah, this is a tough one, man, because both of these are essential pieces in the mid-card during this era. But, if I'm choosing who I find, let's bring it down to the core of what wrestling is. It's entertainment. Who am I more entertained by? That has to be the only question we ask ourselves. Now, as much as I respect Jeff Jarrett for everything he's done for the wrestling world, this is purely an opinionated list based on silliness, and I think Val Venus is hilarious. I really do. So, yes, I'm picking Val Venus over Jeff Jarrett. I'm sorry. If that one got you, I get it. Now, Billy Gunn versus Shawn Michaels. Wow. This is not an easy matchup for Mr. Billy Gunn, and I think you all know why, but we'll go through what makes both of these superstars so special. Billy Gunn is a 5-time tag team champion with the Road Dogg, New Age Outlaws, baby. 1-time Intercontinental champion, defeating his partner Road Dogg. And a 2-time Hardcore champion, defeating Crash Holly and Hardcore Holly. Oh, take a breath. Whew. Obviously, popularized for his team with Road Dogg as the New Age Outlaws, then to become DX. They kind of got swallowed in that. And his biggest feuds, notably Mankind, The Rock, Dudley Boys, The Nation of Domination, and the Legion of Doom. Billy Gunn. Then we got Shawn Michaels, who was a 1-time WWE champion in this era. We're talking about the Attitude Era, by defeating Bret Hart, also known as the Montreal Screwjob, one of the most important pieces in the Attitude Era. Main feuds being Bret Hart, The Undertaker, and Steve Austin. Famous faction D-Generation X, fronted by him and Triple H. But he did miss a significant amount of time in this era due to a severe back injury. Now, I'm going to blow my nose briefly. Hold on. Now, with that out of the way, I guarantee this video will go more smooth. Billy Gunn and Shawn Michaels. Yes, Shawn Michaels did miss a significant amount of time in the Attitude Era. He missed, I'd say, most of it, but is that enough for me to put Billy Gunn over Shawn Michaels? Because Shawn Michaels is a very, very special wrestler, and he did have a huge impact on the Attitude Era. You could say he's the reason it exists. You can also say his D-Generation X was the most over thing in the entire era, right behind The Rock and Stone Cold. So Shawn Michaels, his influence is all over this era. It's essential to his career, even though if we're talking purely in-ring, it is a transition period for Shawn Michaels. But everything considered, man, I'm not the hugest Billy Gunn fan, but what I will say, goddamn, that guy is still ripped today in AEW. What's his name over there? I'm not even going to say it out loud. Almost got myself. Billy Gunn, Mr. Ass, never did it for me. I think it's very funny. I like him in Road Dogg, I do. But I don't think I can even, at least retrospectively looking at it, I don't even know if I could think to associate Billy Gunn with anything besides DX and what Shawn Michaels created with Triple H. You know, the New Age Outlaws are great far before they became a part of DX, but yeah, I'm going Shawn Michaels. Now, even though that doesn't seem like an upset, Shawn did miss a lot of time in the Attitude Era. and if that prevents him from getting much further in this list, don't be surprised, because this is, like I said, It's an Attitude Era bracket. We are going to be favorable to accomplishments in the time period and what they did in that time period. And now we have William Regal versus Chris Jericho. William Regal is a 4-time European champion, defeating D'Lo Brown, Jeff Jarrett twice, and Al Snow, a 1-time hardcore champion, defeating Crash Holly, one of the most dominant European champions of the era, and known for his very technical in-ring style. Now, Chris Jericho, he is also a 4-time champion, but he is a 4-time Intercontinental champion, defeating China, Hardcore Holly, Chris Benoit, and Kurt Angle, a 1-time European champion, defeating Kurt Angle, a 1-time Hardcore champion, defeating The Big Show, 3-time tag champion, teaming with Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, and The Rock. And he would also defeat The Rock and Undertaker, Austin and Triple H, and the Dudley Boys. And he is a 1-time undisputed WWE champion, defeating The Rock and Steve Austin. First person to unify titles. Legend of the era for that. Yeah, man. This one, I wish it was closer. William Regal was absolutely, I don't want to say underused because he was prevalent, but he wasn't used to his fullest extent. And I think that's the problem with William Regal. We don't have him at the top of the card at any period during the Attitude Era. I'm sure he had feuds with bigger talent, but the point being, he was never he never reached the peaks that matched his in-ring capabilities. And Chris Jericho, he's iconic for his work in this time period, which now we would get to a very hectic matchup. We have Vader versus Ahmed Johnson, which Vader had no titles during the Attitude Era. His major feuds would be Kane, Ken Shamrock, and Goldust. And he's an upper mid-carder, big monster character, striking ability, mostly known for his work in WCW and New Japan during the time. So yes, he had a very short stint in WWE as an upper mid-card monster. Ahmed Johnson, he had no reigns in the Attitude Era. He was a 1-time IC champion, defeating Goldust, but that was slightly before the era. And, he's part of the Nation of Domination. Only real notable feuds are with members of the Nation, being Farouk and The Rock, known for his in-ring physicality. Yeah, man, this is both of these guys did not have a significant amount of time in the era. Ahmed Johnson was pretty much more of a tail end of the New Generation era. Didn't last too long in the Attitude Era. Vader, another journeyman kind of wrestler. He bounced around a lot, going place to place. I think he's highly recognized as a legend in Japan, but in America as well, of course. But, But all of this being said, this is tough, man. Because they both have very limited catalogs in this era. And I know Vader is a much respected figure in wrestling. But if we're talking purely in WWE, I think I'm going to go Ahmed Johnson, and I'm going to tell you why. Yes, he's a bit of a controversial figure in wrestling because he was known for being extremely stiff in the ring, and there's a lot of stuff nowadays where people don't talk too kindly of him. But that, that doesn't matter for this kind of thing. He was explosively physical at the beginning of the Attitude Era. And just any clip you see of Ahmed Johnson just chucking somebody around, it's like, Jesus Christ, man, this guy was a beast. So, yeah, I'm going to go Ahmed Johnson. Whatever. Ooh, Kane and Hardcore Holly. Now, we are getting to... Kane is definitely a major player here in this bracket. He is a one-time WWE champion, defeating Stone Cold Steve Austin, a two-time Intercontinental champion, defeating Triple H twice, six-time tag team champion, teaming with The Undertaker, X-Pac, and Mankind. I'm not even going to say who he defeated, too many names to list. Two times Hardcore champion, defeating Rhino and The Big Show and The Undertaker. So there's a triple threat match victory in there. Huge plot line during the era as Undertaker's brother, all the antics with Paul Bearer. His biggest feuds were with Taker, Steve Austin, Mankind. They had a great thing going too. Triple H, X-Pac, Big Show, and the Corporation generally. Wow. Yeah, Kane was a big deal in the Attitude Era. If only just for the way he came in. But that lightning, it stuck with him. They really knew how to do scary monster characters back then, man. Not just with Kane, but you look at Mankind, like, these characters were sick. Hardcore Holly, of course, is a six-time Hardcore champion, defeating Al Snow 3 of those times, as well as Billy Gunn, Test, and Crash Holly, a one-time tag team champion with Crash Holly, defeating the Rock and Sock Connection. And, he essentially was a big part of the Hardcore division, fun tag team with his cousin Crash, and his notable gimmick, him weighing 400 pounds, which is not true. It was just what they said he weighed. Very silly. Yeah, man, Hardcore Holly, I believe his career was cut short, but that was in the early Attitude Era. It's not going to affect his ranking here. I just don't think he has the resume to compete with a Kane. Kane is iconic. I think we all think Kane's pretty cool. At least in this time period when he was fully masked and not wearing this mask when he was wearing the original. These are just pictures I found online. All right, Kane. Chyna versus Hawk. Chyna is a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, defeating Jeff Jarrett, Chris Jericho 2 times, but 1 time was weird because they defeated each other with a double pin, and they both held the belt. Either way, she's a 3-time Intercontinental Champion. And here's the crazier thing. Despite having the men's title 3 times, she is only a 1-time Women's Champion, defeating Ivory. Which, that alone is still great that she got that belt. Her resume is insane. She is the first woman to compete in the Royal Rumble match, as well as the Men's King of the Ring match, member of D-Generation X, and, she's a woman powerhouse who competed in the men and women's division. Chyna's iconic for this era. And we also have Hawk, part of the Legion of Doom, formerly known as the Road Warriors. 1-time tag champion, defeating the Goodwins. Of course, member of legendary tag team with Animal. Notable rivalries being the Goodwins, the New Age Outlaws, and the Disciples of Apocalypse. But something worth noting when it comes to Hawk, they also did like a really weird angle with him and Droz, when Droz was like the 3rd member of LOD, and Hawk had like a drug problem and that's why Droz had to fill in for matches, it was a bit silly. And, Hawk and Animal, their best work is not in this time period. If you go back to the 80s, even maybe before the New Generation era, maybe the Golden Age, I believe that's where most of their primary work is. This is going to be China, without a doubt. Sorry, Hawk. You're a legend. Also, dude, if you ever watch some old school Road Warrior promos, they're great, dude. They are great. D'Lo Brown versus Ken Shamrock. Now, D'Lo Brown is a one-time IC champion, defeating Chris Jericho, a one-time European champion, defeating Jeff Jarrett, one-time hardcore champion, defeating Crash Holly, and a two-time tag team champion, one time with Chaz, another time with Mark Henry, defeating teams in both of these situations, I guess, in multi-men matches. Now, during the time, he was a pretty big mid-card player. He had a role in the Right to Censor team as well, notable for his pairing with Mark Henry, and his gimmick little head movement thing. That's kind of what got him over, oddly enough. Which I saw on a clip on my feed recently, just on YouTube Shorts. And it was D'Lo Brown being interviewed. And it was talking about how he got that head bob gimmick. And he said he did it one time because he watched the movie Friday. And he just did it in the ring. And when he got backstage, Vince was like, keep doing that head bob thing. Good job. Like, what the That's great. That's hilarious to me. And we would also have Ken Shamrock, a one-time tag team champion, defeating the Big Show and Undertaker, aligned with the Big Boss Man, known for his allegiance with the corporation, and known for his mixed martial arts style. Key rivalries of this era would be X-Pac, Al Snow, Hardcore Holly, Big Show, and The Undertaker. Now, Ken Shamrock, I do think, I think Ken Shamrock's awesome, of course, but I think of him as a UFC legend, and that's not exclusive. I think his time in the WWE, it was cool, but I think there was a martial artist in this exact same time period who would have a bit more, he would have more moments. Now, Ken Shamrock, undoubtedly probably the toughest guy ever to be in WWE, arguably. You can put him up there with Brock Lesnar, tough guy. But if we're talking strictly work in WWE, I will be taking D'Lo Brown. I like his character. I'm just into D'Lo Brown more than Ken Shamrock. I think he's a better superstar, all things considered. And next, we would have Ivory versus Thrasher. Now, this is a very random matchup. Ivory is a 3-time WWE Women's Champion, defeating Deborah, Jacqueline, and Lita, considered pretty much the backbone of the women's division. Notable rivals were Lita, Jacqueline, Chyna, Tori Wilson, and Sable. One of the most accomplished women on the roster. And then we have Thrasher, who is a one-time tag team champion with Mosh, defeated Owen Hart and the British Bulldog for those titles. Notably also was rivals with the Goodwins, the New Age Outlaws, the Oddities, mostly a comedic tag team with Mosh. Now, I don't know if either of these people are getting past this round, because truthfully, I have very limited interest in both of them. No offense to Ivory, because clearly she has a stronger resume than Thrasher, but I do remember playing as Thrasher in WWE or WrestleMania 2000, the video game, and I'm really not overly familiar with Ivory's work. I'm not sure if I've ever even seen clips of her. That's on me. I do have the research, but I do not have the association or the actual watching her, achieve these things. So I will say Thrasher because I am familiar with the character significantly more. Neither of them are going to have an amazing run, I could tell you already. But next round, we would have Al Snow versus Droz. Now, both of these guys are... These characters would only exist within the Attitude Era. Let's just put it like that, because Al Snow, he's a 3-time Hardcore champion, defeating Hardcore Holly, Big Boss Man, and then Hardcore Holly, again, mostly associated with the Job Squad and his prosthetic head gimmick. He was a Hardcore division staple, had feuds with the Holly Cousins and the Blue Meanie. But yeah, mostly just a jobber of the time who was very odd and disturbed. Then you look at Droz, who had no title reigns. He's the third man in the Legion of Doom. Notable feuds being Hawk, Steve Blackman, and Prince Albert. Career was unfortunately, very unfortunately, cut short with a powerbomb botch, paralyzing him. Was that delivered by D'Lo Brown? I can't recall. But that is, that's extremely unfortunate. Because God only knows what his career could have looked like, Nobody knows. But what I do know is that Droz didn't have the best angles. Al Snow, I feel like, had a better grasp of his weirdness. Don't get me wrong, Al Snow is a oddball character for sure, but it was a well understood oddball character. So yeah, I'm gonna go Al Snow. I just remember him more fondly with that prosthetic head. It was such a weird thing. But we do have Shane McMahon versus Taka Michinoku. Shane McMahon is a one-time European champion defeating X-Pac, a one-time Hardcore champion defeating Steve Blackman, known for his can't even speak English, his allegiance with the corporation and Vince McMahon, also known for his rivalry with Vince McMahon, the whole angle of Shane bought WCW, main rivals being X-Pac, Blackman, Big Show, Vince, and Kurt Angle. Yeah, man. Then we have Taka Michinoku, who was a one-time light heavyweight champion, defeating Grandmaster Sexay. Formed Kai and Tai faction, notable rivals being Val Venus, the Hardy Boys, and the aforementioned Grandmaster Sexy. Yeah, man, I'm leaning heavy on Shane on this one, because Shane McMahon, dude, this guy's a nut. He had some of the craziest spots. I always think of that match against Steve Blackman. Also, all the coast to coast. Shane was not afraid to get in that ring, take some brutal bumps. He was a bit of a nut. And I love the guy for it. Shane O'Mac. Oh, baby. We got one of the big hitters in this entire thing right here. Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, I will say early in this bracket, whoever he goes up against, the other person got a rough bracket. Sorry, The Godfather, but Stone Cold Steve Austin is a 6-time WWE champion, defeating Shawn Michaels, Mankind as Dude Love, The Undertaker, Big Show, and The Rock 3 times. 2-time IC champion, defeating the British Bulldog on 2 occasions, but one of them was a 4-way match, which also included Ken Shamrock and Vader. A 1-time tag team champion with The Rock, defeating Kane and Undertaker. And he was the face of the company of this entire era. All of his rivalries pretty much define this era, being with Vince McMahon primarily, The Rock, Mankind, Triple H, Undertaker, Kane, and Big Show. This stuff is etched in time. Now, you do have the Godfather, who was a really cool character, a 1-time IC champion defeating Goldust, a tag team champion with Bull Buchanan in Right to Censor. It was kind of a free bird kind of championship reign, and they defeated the Hardy Boys. He was originally aligned with the Nation of Domination, and then later in his career, Right to Censor, and in the middle of that, you have that Godfather pimp persona character, feuding notably with Jeff Jarrett, Goldust, and the Dudley Boys. Yeah, man, shout out to Goldust, but you know damn well it's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Ooh, now we got another person who this character would not exist outside of the Attitude Era. Mideon. He is a 1-time European champion who stole it from Shane McMahon's bag after Shane, quote-unquote, retired the belt. And it counts as an official reign. Yeah. Ain't that some shit. Mostly known for his brief stint in the Goodwins, then rebranding as Mideon into the Ministry of Darkness. Some of his key feuds would be with D'Lo Brown and members of the Corporation. The Corporation generally, of course, before the Corporation and the Ministry would merge. Or maybe it was after, I can't remember. Either way, that's all he did. I know they merged after. Dean Malenko, who is a 2-time light heavyweight champion, defeating Essa Rios and Crash Holly. Notable rivalries being Essa Rios, Scotty 2 Hotty, the Hardy Boys, and the women's locker room, essentially. You got Lita, Jacqueline Ivory, a member of the Radicals when WCW would crash into the WWE. I believe in this group you also have Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Perry Saturn. Yeah, man. This was the start of the Invasion angle, which is at the very end of the Attitude Era. So Dean Malenko did not have a significant amount of time in this era, but Mideon was not a major player at all. I guess neither was Dean Malenko. He didn't stay with the company for a significant amount of time or do anything overly significant while he was there. You know what? I will give it to Mideon because I always just remember thinking he was so weird as a kid. You know, such a strange character. And now we got a strange character, all right. It's going to be Gillberg, who is a 1-time light heavyweight champion, defeating Dean Malenko, who had just been knocked out of this bracket. And that might be an even bigger knock, losing a belt to Goldberg. But, I mean, Gillberg, yeah, dude. Ugh. But Gillberg would lose that belt to Essa Rios later that night. He's a 100% comedy relief character And his gimmick is the opposite of Goldberg. Instead of squashing people, he just gets squashed. Notably feuded with Scotty 2 Hotty and Christian, oddly enough. And then you have Trish Stratus, who didn't really do anything in this era. She was kind of just getting started. She was mostly a valet, a heel valet, who would become best in the division by the time you get to the Ruthless Aggression era. But, I mean, Gilbert is not moving on. I'll tell you that much, dude. There is no way. I don't care if you want a belt. No, dude, it's gonna be Trish. Even just as this character during the era, not very much a wrestler yet, she still was very influential. And even though looking back on it, all the stuff with Vince McMahon, it's a little but it was popular. It was a popular angle. A little morning coffee. Bear with me, bear with me. Delicioso. Oh boy. Next we got Viscera, who he would have a couple different characters, but during the Attitude Era, he's known as Viscera. Now, Viscera did not win any titles. He's known for his menacing size, essentially, and his allegiance with the Ministry of Darkness, kind of like Mideon. He's just one of Undertaker's lackeys, or enforcers, more so in Viscera's case. Main feuds being with the Big Show, Test, and the Corporation. And then you have Matt Hardy, who is a 4-time tag team champion with Jeff, defeating the Acolytes, Edge and Christian on 3 occasions, and the Dudley Boys. A 1-time European champion, defeating Kanyon, of all the people, and a 1-time hardcore champion, defeating Jeff Hardy. Now, he is known for his Team Extreme, tagging with Jeff Hardy, and TLC matches, feuding with Edge, Christian, the Dudley Boys, and the Acolytes. Oh, God, I'm falling apart here. I need to blow my nose again. Always one take, baby. Okay, known for Team Extreme, Lita, Jeff Hardy, TLC, feuded with Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, and the Acolytes. So yes, Matt Hardy is a significantly more accomplished superstar in the era. Despite how cool Viscera is, I think I'm more familiar with his incarnation as Big Daddy V. Well, at least I watched more of that, because it was of a time period I could watch it. Attitude Era, I wasn't even around, brother. But, yeah, we're going to go Matt Hardy on this one. Viscera, all my association is looking back on clips and playing as him in the video game. Which he looked crazy. If you played WrestleMania 2000, he looks nuts in that game. So yeah, Matt Hardy is absolutely moving on in this one. Let's see, who do we got next? Matt Hardy. Hello. Bracketfight.com, work with me. Wow, delayed. Oh, and we are back to the top of this side. I guess we're going to clear out this side in this video, and then we'll bounce to the other side. I already listed all these guys' accomplishments. If you don't know, then you better get to knowing. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move the mic a little bit closer to me. Then I'm going to lean back. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, Big Show versus Christian. God, I do love me some Christian, but I love his Attitude Era work probably the least. If we're talking compared to his runs in Ruthless Aggression or even his work in AEW now, I gotta take all of those Christians before the Attitude Era Christian. Because at this time, man, he really was just the second man to Edge. We all knew Edge was the star. Yeah, yeah. But until Christian became his own star, I have to go with the Big Show here because the Big Show, you could argue in the Attitude Era, it was his most essential time. Don't get me wrong, he would be used to the fullest extent in every era for how much you could get out of him at whatever time it may be. But yeah, man, him jumping from WCW as the Giant to becoming this top of the card monster, a main event era monster, a main event level monster. Excuse me. Yeah, it's going to be the Big Show. Give me the Big Show. Sorry, Christian. Next, we have Val Venis versus Shawn Michaels. Man, Val Venis really did put in the work in this era. But I can't pick him over Shawn Michaels. Not yet. When it's time for Shawn to fall from grace, from his lack of appearances, it'll be known. But it's not to Val Venis. Then we would have Ahmed Johnson versus Chris Jericho. You know damn well it's going to be Chris Jericho in this matchup. Far more accomplished, pivotal player in the era. Kane versus China. Now, China, major player in the era, but it's going to be Kane. It's Kane! Oh, I can't even do a Paul Bear. My voice is going to explode if I even try at this point. Yeah, give me Kane, baby. D'Lo Brown versus Thrasher. No doubt in my mind it is D'Lo Brown. I'm sorry, Thrasher. You know, it's crazy. I remember picking him in the video game way more than Mosh. And Mosh, they gave him, like, pretty terrible characters, but they at least attempted a mid-card push. Thrasher is just solely in that tag team. It's about all he did. Notably. Al Snow versus Shane McMahon. Ooh, it pains me to do it, but Al Snow's got to go, despite how wickedly cool of a character he is. At the end of the day, he's just a jobber. Shane O'Mac is legendary, iconic. Then we have... Whoa, not fair. Stone Cold versus Mideon. You know damn well Mideon is not going any farther in this bracket up against Stone Cold Steve Austin, man. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Let's see. Trish Stratus versus Matt Hardy. Trish, absolute legend. I'll say this for both of them. I think they both would be more pivotal in the Attitude Era. Blowing my nose again, 1 second. It's cold in New York, man. This weather. It's the end of October. That fall season is hitting me. Yeah, we're going to pick Matt Hardy here. Trish barely had any ring time in this era. So, that's just what it is. Matt had classics in this era. Absolute classics. Ooh, The Big Show versus Shawn Michaels. Man, I love Shawn Michaels. I think he's one of the greatest superstars ever. But we are talking about the Attitude Era. The Big Show, who also I have an extremely soft spot for, he was a worker. And it's crazy. He still does some stuff with AEW. He still has occasional matches. Maybe 3 a year at this point, but the dude works. He wants to work. Yeah, man, the Big Show. If we're talking Attitude Era, it's the Big Show here. He's exciting. This is when he had the long hair. Chris Jericho versus Kane. God damn, what a match. That's tough, dude. Both a champion, a WWE champion during this era. Of course, Chris Jericho's would be a lot bigger of a moment of a championship reign. Chris Jericho has held double the amount of IC champions, but Kane has held double the amount of tag champions, and 2 hardcore compared to Chris's 1 hardcore, but Chris also has a European champ. Oh, man, this is tough. Ooh. Is this the first truly tough matchup in the bracket? If we're talking just storyline, man. Oh, well, man, you get that whole Y2J, the countdown, all of it with Jericho. Him coming over was such a big deal. But then you have Kane. And I just remember as a kid, Kane being the scariest monster, man. I think I'm going to do something that is not very agreeable, but as a fan, I think I'm going with Kane in the Attitude Era. If it's any other era, it's Chris Jericho. He did spend a lot of time in WCW. I mean, he was pretty much in half the Attitude Era. But Kane, his time in that era as this big monster, the theme song, the presentation, the story, Paul Bearer, The Undertaker, the Ministry of Darkness, all the stuff with Mankind, I think of that more than Chris Jericho's time in that era. I really do. Even though by the time it was 2001, 2002, 2000, Chris Jericho was one of the hottest entities in the company. Kane was doing some BS in the 2000s, even at the start. But yeah, man, it's Chris Jericho. At least it's Kane for me, despite the BS on this one. If you're mad about it, leave it in the comment section. And I just spilled a little bit of coffee. Maybe that's some instant karma. Okay, perfect. D'Lo Brown versus Shane O'Mac, baby. Okay, let's see. D'Lo Brown versus Shane. I gotta go with Shane O'Mac. Come on. Not fair for D'Lo, but no, I clicked on D'Lo Brown, but it is Shane McMahon moving on. Hold on while I correct this briefly. We got it right here. Shane O'Mac. All right. Just because I clicked D'Lo Brown doesn't mean he gets to move on. We're playing this by who I choose, and I chose Shane McMahon. So yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Matt Hardy. Ooh. God, do I love the Hardy Boys. I really do. But do I love Matt more than Stone Cold? Let's be honest, man. No way. No way, man. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Come on. Come on. Matt had a good run, though. Matt had a really good run. God damn. The Big Show versus Kane. These guys serve very similar roles as top of the card monsters. This one really comes down to who do you think was portrayed better in the era? Ooh, let me think. Man, Big Show with the corporation. I mean, he would still be the McMahon's lackey all the way in the 2000s as well. But he was constantly having heel and face turns. I think compared to Kane, Big Show had a lack of direction. Despite being an extremely dominant superstar of the time. And him, dude, back in the 90s, Big Show's athleticism for his size, absolutely freakish, man. This dude could do anything. And he was huge. You see a missile drop kick from him. It's crazy. But yeah, I am going to go Kane, man. I'm going Kane. Sorry. Shane O'Mac versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, baby. I love Shane McMahon. I really do. I love Shane McMahon. I love Stone Cold. I think about Shane McMahon's... I mentioned his matches with Blackman already, but think about their beef with DX, him and Vince. I think about his beef with Vince. I think about his match with Kurt Angle. But all that to be said, Shane McMahon, dude, Steve Austin, you could watch any promo, anytime, any night, any segment, any match. It's taking you off your feet, man. You're paying attention. You're excited. And, yeah, man, him being the face of the era, it's very easy to choose him because we got the most of him. Everything you could ever want from a badass anti-heel character, you got it out of Stone Cold, man. Beating the hell out of Vince. Like I said, every segment, every promo, it was exciting. His beef with Kurt Angle was dope. Even though that might be more ruthless aggression, but yeah, man, his stuff with The Rock and Vince, his stuff with Mankind, his stuff with Triple H, stuff a legend. Even his stuff with The Undertaker. He could make anybody seem ridiculous, but you wanted to root for him so badly. It's going to be Stone Cold. And this is the first half of the bracket. As you can see, we have a completely second half. Of course, the winner of this half goes on to face the winner of that half. There's not too many superstars in the second half, so part 2 is going to be considerably shorter than part 1, but I am going to end the video here. Thank you all for watching. Tune in next time as we crown the champion of the bracket. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.